High above the clouds, hidden on cliffs and mountain peaks, lie 7 ancient sanctuaries that defy time and reason. Built where no human was meant to reach, their stones whisper of forgotten gods, lost civilizations, and secrets buried in the sky. Each one tells a story of faith, fear, and impossible ambition. Who built them? Why so high above the earth? And what were they trying to keep from us? Welcome to Ancient Dilemma, where history meets the unknown. Subscribe now and begin your journey beyond the clouds. Katskhi Pillar, Georgia, the Sky Church of Forgotten Saints. In the remote highlands of western Georgia, a monolithic limestone column rises straight from the earth like the spine of a sleeping giant. Locals call it the Katskhi Pillar. But to those who have dared to climb it, or simply stood in awe beneath its shadow, it has another name: the Pillar of Life. At over 130 feet tall, this towering geological formation pierces the sky from a lush valley in the Imereti region. But it's what lies at the top that makes it one of the most mysterious structures on Earth. Perched at the summit is a tiny ruined church, so isolated that for hundreds of years, no outsider could even confirm it truly existed. Historical mentions of this sky church go back to the 18th century in Georgian literature. But it wasn't until the 1940s that a formal ascent was documented. Mountaineer Alexander Japaridze and writer Levan Gotua risked their lives to reach the summit. What they found would reshape the religious and historical narrative of the entire region. The ruins atop the pillar date back to the 9th or 10th century, confirmed through modern archaeological surveys. 13th century inscriptions found carved into the stone suggest centuries of worship and use. The complex includes a small church, a crypt, 3 stone cells, and even a wine cellar, all suspended in the sky. A local monk named Maxim Kavtaradze lived alone atop the pillar for over 20 years, starting in the 1990s. His life was one of isolation, devotion, and mystery. Maxim would descend only twice a week to gather supplies and speak with followers. The rest of his time was spent in prayer and rebuilding the ancient structure using primitive tools and materials carried up piece by piece. The monastery at the base of the pillar now supports a small group of Orthodox monks. But only they are permitted to climb the vertical ladder to the top, which was closed to the public years ago. To this day, the original builders remain unknown. No one knows how medieval engineers hoisted building materials up a vertical rock with no modern equipment. No one knows why they chose this spot. And no one can explain the strange silence that surrounds the pillar, a silence so deep, even birds seem to avoid it. It is as though the Katskhi pillar was built not just to get closer to heaven, but to seal something off from the world below. Skellig, Michael, Ireland, the edge of the known world. In the crashing waves of the Atlantic Ocean, 9 miles from Ireland's rugged western coast, 2 jagged rocks rise from the sea like fangs. The larger of the 2 is Skellig Michael, and it hides a secret older than most civilizations on Earth. From a distance, it looks uninhabitable, cold, sharp, uninviting. But if you brave the rough waters and scale its narrow paths, you'll discover a forgotten sanctuary in the clouds. Skellig Michael is the site of a remarkably preserved monastery believed to have been built in the 6th or 7th century. It sits atop the peak of the island, 750 feet above sea level, carved directly into the rock by early Christian monks who sought total isolation from the world. The stone structures are built in a unique beehive shape known as clochons, designed to withstand the ocean's fury. Archaeologists believe the monks lived here for over 600 years. surviving off seabirds, rainwater, and sheer faith. The site includes oratories, meditation cells, burial plots, and a small church with walls over 2 meters thick. To this day, human remains are still buried there, in simple stone graves looking out over the sea. Climbing Skellig Michael is no easy task. The steps are ancient and uneven, carved by hand into the sheer rock face. There are no railings, no guardrails, and no safety harnesses. Just stone, wind, and the ever-present threat of falling into the sea. Today, fewer than 15 licensed guides are permitted to bring visitors to the island each year. This extreme restriction is not just about preservation. It is also about respect for the dead, for the unknown, and for the silent power of the place. What drove men to retreat here, to the edge of the known world? What did they fear, or what were they hiding from? No one knows why the monks abandoned Skellig Michael after centuries of use. Some say Viking raids, others speak of famine, disease, or celestial omens. But one thing is certain. Whatever happened here left no trace. Just the wind, the stone, and the memory of prayers whispered into the waves. Abuna Yemata, Ethiopia, Stairway to the Heavens. In the northern highlands of Ethiopia, carved into the face of a vertical sandstone cliff, stands one of the most breathtaking and dangerous places of worship on the planet. It is called Abuna Yemata. To reach it, you must first hike through the arid plains of the Tigray region. Then, you climb barefoot up jagged rock ledges worn smooth by time. No ropes, no safety gear. Just your fingers, your feet, and your faith. The ascent reaches nearly 8,500 feet above sea level. Climbers must cross a narrow natural stone bridge with a sheer 800-foot drop on either side. A final challenge awaits at the top. A vertical climb along a cliff wall followed by a narrow ledge only inches wide, with nothing but air between you and the valley floor below. Once inside, the darkness swallows you. And then, slowly, the ancient frescoes reveal themselves. Painted on the walls and ceiling are vibrant depictions of biblical figures, saints, and spiritual symbols dating back to the 6th century. These paintings are considered among the oldest surviving Christian frescoes in the world. They are untouched by humidity, time, and even looters simply because no one else can reach them. The church was built to honor Abuna Yemata, one of the legendary 9 saints who brought Christianity to Ethiopia from Rome in the 5th century. Archaeologists believe the site was used for religious ceremonies, meditation, and even burial. Human remains lie inside, carried up the cliff by generations of believers for ritual purification. Even today, Ethiopian Orthodox monks maintain the church. Some of them live in the region permanently, never descending to the villages below. They read scripture, pray for the dead, and keep the traditions alive that stretch back over 1,500 years. They say the higher you go, the closer you are to God. But here, at Abuna Yemata, the air is thin, the rock is steep, and the line between earth and heaven begins to blur. Sigiriya, Sri Lanka, the forgotten city in the sky. In the dense tropical forests of central Sri Lanka rises one of the most awe-inspiring structures ever built by ancient hands. A massive, isolated rock column, over 600 feet high, towers above the green canopy, a relic of ambition, fear, and lost royalty. This is Sigiriya, known as the Lion Rock. To the untrained eye, it may appear as just another geological formation. But once you approach its base, the secrets begin to unfold. This is not merely a mountain. It is an ancient fortress, a palace, a kingdom in the clouds. According to the Mahavamsa, an ancient Sri Lankan chronicle, The area was once dense jungle until natural disasters forced the land upward. King Kashyapa chose this peak in the 5th century to build his capital, fearing betrayal and assassination from within his court. He transformed the summit into a sprawling palace, complete with towers, pools, gardens, and guard posts. The western face was covered in enormous frescoes of celestial maidens, while a wall polished to such brilliance reflected the king himself became known as the Mirror Wall. Sigiriya's name comes from the colossal lion-shaped gate sculpted into the rock halfway up. Only the paws remain today, but they once guarded a monumental staircase that led to the king's personal sanctuary. Beneath the summit, a series of symmetrical water gardens stretch outward, fed by underground canals and reservoirs that still function today. These features showcase an understanding of hydraulic engineering centuries ahead of its time. Some scholars believe Sigiriya was laid out according to cosmic principles, aligning architecture with the stars. After King Kashyapa's death, the palace was abandoned. Buddhist monks transformed it into a monastery for centuries, before it again fell into silence and decay. But the ruins remain silent, proud, and haunting. Standing atop the summit today, surrounded by stone walls and ancient echoes, you cannot help but wonder how many more cities in the clouds were lost to time. Paro Taktsang, Bhutan, the tiger's nest of legends. High in the mystical mountains of Bhutan, nestled against a sheer cliff face, rests a place so sacred and so remote that it seems pulled from a dream. Paro Taktsang, the tiger's nest. Located at an altitude of 10,000 feet, this Himalayan monastery defies both geography and imagination. Built into the vertical rock face of the upper Paro Valley, its beauty and serenity veil a story of supernatural origins and extreme physical sacrifice. Legend says, Guru Padmasambhava, the father of Tibetan Buddhism, flew to this very cliff on the back of a flaming tigress, the transformed spirit of his consort. He meditated here for 3 years, 3 months, 3 days, and 3 hours to subdue evil spirits and spread the Dharma across Bhutan. In the 17th century, the monastery was built to honor his spiritual triumph, encasing the cave, where he meditated in stone and timber. Getting there is no simple feat. The nearest town lies 6 miles away, but it is not the distance that challenges visitors, it is the vertical rise. A 3,000-foot climb must be conquered on foot, across narrow paths that hug the mountain and overlook staggering drops. The final approach includes 700 stone steps carved into the rock, descending into a valley only to rise again to the temple gates. Along the way, a waterfall plunges 330 feet down the cliff, adding to the sense that this is no earthly place. Inside, you will find sacred relics, meditation rooms, and the famed cave known as Delki's Chamber. In this chamber, the remains of a monk named Pelki, a disciple of Padmasambhava, are said to have miraculously reappeared centuries after his death, proof to some that this place is still touched by divine forces. Paro Taktsang remains an active monastery. Monks chant through the misty mornings, prayer flags flutter in the wind, and pilgrims come from across the world, climbing not just for views, but for transcendence. If the earth has sacred places that touch the sky, this may be the holiest among them. Meteora, Greece, monasteries suspended in the air. In the heart of mainland Greece, towering sandstone pillars pierce the horizon like fingers stretching into the heavens. Atop these seemingly unreachable columns rest the ancient monasteries of Meteora. Their name means, quite literally, suspended in the air. This is one of the most spiritually charged landscapes in all of Europe, and one of the most physically astounding feats of architecture ever accomplished. The Meteora cliffs were formed more than 60 million years ago by river erosion and tectonic activity. Beginning in the 14th century, Christian monks seeking complete isolation from the political chaos of the Byzantine Empire began scaling these towers to build sanctuaries in the clouds. With no roads, stairs, or bridges, the only way up was by rope ladders or being hoisted in baskets hundreds of feet in the air. It was faith that carried them upward. At the peak of its use, 24 monasteries dotted the cliffs. Today, only 6 remain active. Inside are stunning frescoes, ancient scrolls, and relics dating back to the first wave of Eastern Orthodox expansion into the region. The walls are thick, carved from rock, with windows gazing into the endless sky. It is said that at Meteora, the earth and heaven touch. Even modern archaeologists remain baffled by how such structures were constructed at such impossible altitudes, without cranes, without modern tools, and without safety. The monks of Meteora believed that in rising above the world, they were rising above sin. And maybe, even now, they were right. Chapter 7. Taung Kalat, Myanmar, the volcano shrine in the clouds. Perched atop a volcanic plug on Mount Popa in central Myanmar, stands a structure that almost seems to float between the land and the sky. This is Taung Kalat, a Buddhist monastery built on the narrow summit of an extinct volcano. It rises 2,417 feet above sea level, and 777 steps carved into the stone lead to the top, a sacred number in Buddhist cosmology. Built in the 11th century, Taung Kalat is one of Myanmar's most revered spiritual sites. The monastery honors the Nats, 37 powerful spirits of Burmese tradition, who predate Buddhism and are believed to dwell in natural places. Pilgrims come here not only to pray, but to ask for protection, good harvests, and safe journeys. The climb is more than just physical. Along the way, pilgrims pass statues, offerings, and small shrines to various deities. Mischievous monkeys line the path, adding both chaos and charm to the journey. At the summit, the golden spires of the monastery shimmer in the sun, overlooking vast plains below. It is believed that the Nats themselves live among the temple halls, especially in hidden chambers and sealed doorways that are never opened. Earthquakes and storms have threatened the site many times, but it always endures as if protected by the very spirits it celebrates. Taung Kalat is a living example of how ancient people not only built for the gods, but built for balance between earth, fire, sky, and spirit. If you feel something stir deep within you while watching You're Not Alone, subscribe now to Ancient Dilemma and become part of a growing community searching for truth beneath the dust of time. Share your thoughts in the comments. Which of these sky temples would you dare to climb?